What was a fact that you regret knowing? Most people who jump off the Golden Gate Bridge don't die on impact. They have broken limbs and usually drown. Maybe it's well known, but the song I Don't Like Mondays is based on a horrific story. A teenage girl named Brenda Spencer lived across the street from an elementary school. One day there were a bunch of kids outside the gate waiting to be let in, and she just started shooting at them. None of the kids were killed, but 2 school employees were, the principal and a janitor, I believe, but I don't remember for sure. Afterwards she went back home to wait for the police, and she called up a radio station to tell them what she did. When they asked her why, her answer was, "I just don't like Mondays." There was a woman in the 18th century called Mary Toft who stuffed dead rabbits into her vagina and later acted as if she gave birth to them. The doctors believed her till one of them examined found corn in one of the rabbit's stomachs. It couldn't have been in there. She also did the same with a hog's bladder and a cat's legs. Also with about 15 rabbits. Don't know why I even know this undefined. Please don't put rabbits in your vagina or any other hole. The corn in the rabbit's stomach is what tipped them off? From personal experience. Just how fast pigs process a corpse. Had an old goat die in the barn and didn't find her for a couple hours. At the time we had 2 pigs that were a few months old. Didn't realize just how much we had peeped up by letting them be in with the goats that day. Come evening, we go to close up and do the evening chores, and find half of a goat spilled all over the floor with our pigs rooting around the guts. And that's the story of how 15-year-old me learned to respect pigs. My dad and I both took DNA tests for fun and I found out we aren't related. 0% match. Life hacks for when you don't want to tell your child directly they're adopted. The existence of dust mites. I have long since accepted that I am an ecosystem. That my real mom is my sister I'm adopted. Bob Ross actually hated his afro. When he started out it was the cheapest hairstyle to maintain, and once he picked up some traction it was too iconic to get rid of. This is the saddest thing I've read. I'm not going to share it with anyone. Now this is the burden I carry. About to get sadder. Towards the end of his shows he wore a wig due to balding from chemo. Broke my heart when I read that. Pete Man. I watched someone jump off the Stone Arch Bridge in Minneapolis and saw them pee their pants right before they jumped. More people jumped from the burning World Trade Center on September 11th than you think. Do yourself a favor and don't Google it. This is the fact I was going to post. Watching 9/11 on TV. I was too young to know what was going on, but I remember my dad crying and saying they're jumping. They're jumping over and over. Seriously. I was on a 9/11 kick recently, if you want to call it that. And I came across a documentary on YouTube of footage stitched together from the first plane hitting to the final building collapsing. Lasting about 1 hour and 40 minutes. No interviews. Just cell phone footage. Old home cameras and some news footage sprinkled in. There's a section in the documentary of people beginning to jump one after another. It continues on for the rest of the documentary and it's very disheartening. The magnitude of how dirty hotel rooms are. The worst part of this for me is that I worked in housekeeping at a hotel one summer when I was in high school. Maybe that particular hotel was just really good at keeping the place clean and was an exception. But I do have to wonder how much crap I just never noticed because I was a dumb teenager. Chainsaws were originally meant to be a surgeon's instrument. To aid in childbirth. No joke, Google it. This is going to give me nightmares until menopause. Wait until you hear about the bandsaw that got used once menopause was over. The Challenger space shuttle astronauts were most likely alive and awake on the way down. NASA's lead investigator, Robert Overmyer, concluded most if not all of the crew were alive and possibly conscious during the entire descent until impact with the ocean. After the investigation, Overmyer stated, "I not only flew with Commander Dick Scobie. We owned a plane together. And I know Scob did everything he could to save his crew. Scob fought for any and every edge to survive. He flew that ship without wings all the way down. Actor Daniel von Bargen, Super Troopers. Seinfeld attempted suicide by shooting himself in the temple with a .38 revolver. He was diabetic and didn't want to go to the hospital for another amputation. Unfortunately, he survived and was severely wounded. He also was permanently blinded from the gunshot. There's a transcript of the police call that left me shook. He passed away 3 years later from a battle with diabetes. I remember reading this as why some people duct tape the gun to their hand if they attempt suicide in case the first shot doesn't complete the job. Undefined. Had a family friend that failed to kill himself that way also. Managed to blow his jaw off. If things were bad before. My friend's brother did this, it went through the bottom of his jaw and out of his mouth. It blew his teeth out and after surgeries he's fine. The family pretends it didn't happen. Undefined. That people dump their old dogs at the shelter in December and get a new puppy for Christmas. Assholes. There was an experiment once where, every hour, a rat had to choose between getting fed or having the pleasure nerve of its brain stimulated. And the rat being tested starved every time. It's pretty interesting but also kind of sad. Thanks. Freeman's mind. Yes. But for those experiments, they keep the rats isolated in cages with nothing else to do. So of course they choose that option all the time. This is the important part that often goes ignored. Rats are extremely social and only fall to addiction when in social isolation. When they are in a group, they will happily choose food. Says something about the circumstances of drug use in social mammals. An octopus penis is actually one of their tentacles. So if you would go and pet an octopus at SeaWorld or some other place, you could be groping their penis. This happened in Dragon Ball Super. Goku really shook an alien's dick. Tapeworm faces are absolutely terrifying. Googled it and found pics of tapeworms in people's faces. That was worse JFC. Every time you think of a fond memory, you rewrite that memory in your brain. And with time it will slowly deviate more and more from what you originally remembered. Without you ever knowing it. Cockroaches can fly at 5 kilometers per hour and can live 3 weeks without their head. They eventually die of starvation. They have a main brain in their head and also a primitive brain near their abdomen. Cockroaches also predate grass. The last one is not that scary but kinda scary knowing they've been here so long, so getting them out will be harder and they will probably outlive humans. Edit reworded some stuff. Oh Lord, I hate them so much and wish I hadn't read this. My parents are swingers. And now well into their 70s. So you know that old folks' homes have the highest percentage of STDs. As they won't have to worry about getting pregnant. My great-aunt started going senile and was put in a nursing home for the last few years of her life. My family kept getting calls from the management complaining she was visiting all the other residents. And didn't like us saying good on her. I'm an RN in long-term care. I had a patient that was the hoe of the home. After watching her game I decided I wanted to be just like her when I grow up. My ex was an RN in a retirement home too. She said that after the first of the month when all the prescriptions were refilled, they would find old people peeping around every corner and behind every door. The staff of that retirement home affectionately referred to the first week of every month as the zombie peepalaps. That you have to clean lumps out from underneath a horse's foreskin from time to time. No. No I don't. Yes you do. Go do it now. Sooner or later we're going to be hit by another geomagnetic storm like the Carrington event of 1859. Only this time, our dependence on technology could make the effects far worse. Is that the sun storm thingy which makes all electronic devices obsolete? I saw somewhere it could happen around 2025. Edie. Apparently chances for that happening are around 2%. That my girlfriend once sucked her friend's husband's penis when she went to the bathroom yesterday. Don't put yourself through the pain of trying to continue the relationship. I've made that mistake before and it isn't peeping worth it. Leave her and find someone better. Also, the wife needs to know too. Unless you don't think she can handle the news. Peak cheaters. I'm just kinda done with it all. From my first job at KFC, can't really tell that chicken is spoiled once you put it in the fryer. A friend that used to work at KFC said that they were told not to throw away the spoiled chicken. They would just boil it before frying. So yeah. No more KFC for me. If you live in a high traffic area, it's almost a promise that the food is as fresh as possible. I imagine things like this usually only happen in very slow towns where stock is never sold out by the next truck shipment. Just helping you out. If you stopped eating at every place that had some sort of isolated horror story, you'll have nowhere to eat. Aneurysms can happen to anyone at any time for no reason and can burst at any time for no reason. Can confirm. Partner passed of one earlier this year. We were talking in bed. I went to use the bath. She went to make coffee. Heard a crash. Peep this year. I'm so sorry. Thank you. I'm still working through it. We weren't married but had a kid together and small things will trigger my grief in ways you don't expect. Heck. I even sat on this post deciding if I should say anything or not. We call that sneaky grief in my friend group. It can just completely devastate you out of nowhere. It sucks. Thank you for sharing. If it doesn't help you to talk about it, it may help someone going through the same thing to know they're not alone. The strange pistachio you get every few nuts. The one that tastes a bit funny is because a navel orange worm died inside of it. Sorry. Just think about eating its cute furry head next time. I just ate half a bag last night. And I had several weird ones. FK. Such a weird flavor. Absolute chaos followed by a raisiny aftertaste. Proud of my body for processing it. Protein is protein.